This is Catching Exceptions, and today I'm going to introduce you to the PMOC of the XDB, Todd Mitchell. Thank you for sitting with me, Todd.
Oh, you're welcome.
I've been meaning to get you in this chair for a while. Just glad I finally caught you. So, tell me, where you from? Where'd you grow up?
Tennessee.
Did you grow up in a big town, a big city?
No, I wouldn't call Nashville a big city. It's not small, but it's not. It's not that big.
Not New York.
No, exactly. Not a jungle.
What is it that drew you to technology and got you started?
It's been in my family forever. Grandfather was an engineer for a radio station. Father was always into some bit of technology, doing something. I recall when I was 6 years old, I used to sit next to him while he was writing BASIC and just writing little programs in BASIC, and really did a kick out of watching him write it. And I'd type a few keys every now and then. It sort of got me stuck in technology, and since then I've was always stuck taking something apart.
That's it, right? Taking everything apart, you got to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only way.
And after that, let's jump into where you were in college, because I'm curious, what it was that kind of got you into, real development. What kind of work were you doing? Or
I worked for a computer company where we repaired computers. I just repaired computers all day, a lot of hardware stuff. And then the guy I was working with at the time, the guy who ran the shop, asked me to build a website. So I built this website on ASP, on classic ASP, and using a Microsoft database. I think he sold maybe like one order. That was a really happy day to sell an order on the website. But yeah, so I built that website for him, and I built a lot of hobby projects before that.
I noticed that you grew up in Tennessee, but you lived in Copenhagen for a while, and now you live in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Tell me what happened in between there. How did you end up making that transition?
I took a position. I was working for a company for quite a while. Actually, while I was in college as well. This is a different company. And I worked for them for quite a while, and I'd taken a position as the architect over our web presence. And that included Sitecore. I took some training from the developer certification course that we all have to go through. And during the training, looking at the APIs that were available for OMS and looking at the data set, I saw this massive gap between this really interesting data set that could be collected, but the APIs to get to the data and actually do something with it, unless you were Sitecore, were virtually non-existent, right? But compare that to the CMS, where you could do a lot of stuff with content. There's like this gap. And so one day I had two ideas pop in my head. It just kind of popped up out of the blue. And one was a product I'd built before for the company I was working for, allowed you to centralize data on an individual. It was a mixture of a CRM and a security system. We had very strict rules on the way you looked at what data could be seen by the individual. So that idea or that product that I built before kind of merged in with the idea of the analytics data, and out of that came what's now the experience profile. And then the other idea around all of the analytics data happens to be what's manifested now as XConnect, right? The ability to work with this sort of data as a developer who is external to Sitecore, much like you do with content.
That's powerful to be able to have such an impact on a product like Sitecore.
Yeah. So those ideas popped in my head, and I also had a desire to move to Australia. And so I was talking to the solution architect that was working with us at Sitecore. I talked to the guy, and I was like, hey, so I want to live in Australia, and I want to work with Sitecore. And he's like, okay, I know a guy. A few months later, I'm on a plane to Australia. Sold everything that I owned, and moved to Australia, and I lived there for about a year as a solution architect until I made my way to Copenhagen.
Yeah. Brought you to the mothership.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
So then how did you end up moving to San Francisco? What was that transition?
That was actually a plan that I had. Wanted to live in San Francisco. So when I went from Australia to Copenhagen, I was moving to work on the core product to build the experience profile, and then also work on the core analytics products that I'm working on now. And when I was talking to leadership there, I said, well, why don't I do this in San Francisco? And they said, well, no, come to Copenhagen first for a few years, and then we see about San Francisco. So I was in Copenhagen for 2.5 years, and then made my way over to San Francisco.
And now that you're in there and you're working on XDB, give me a little bit of insight on what it's like trying to work with the team, and how many people do you have on that team?
We are 26, including myself.
It's a big team.
Yeah. Big investment for us.
What's it like I imagine everybody's like super smart.
Working with people that smart, I found that I have to come in with, these are the ideas of how I'd like to see things together, rough out the edges, and then have them own the internals of what it is they're doing, and then work with them in a sort of collaborative and yet negotiating fashion, right? Where they may say, okay, we need to be like this because of these reasons, and I say, well, that doesn't plug into this other idea, it doesn't plug into this other part of the system, and it sort of breaks the whole picture. And so they go back and do some rework, and they say, no, we can't do this for this particular reason. So, it's back and forth.
Yeah, right. You're in a wonderful job, wonderful thing, but it's still very challenging to try to pull it together.
Oh, yeah, definitely a lot of work to pull it together. I mean, everyone's willing, but we all have strong opinions.
So that's all the questions I have for you, but this is your opportunity now. If you have a message to give the community, give it a go.
Yeah, I do. It's my goal to make the XConnect product as interesting and as powerful as our CMS product. So I hope that you all give it your time when we release it, and give it as much engagement as you give the CMS. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Todd.
Thank you.
So that was Catching Exceptions, and you just met Todd Mitchell, Technical Product Manager for Sitecore's XDB. Next time you see me, we're going to be getting to know somebody else. Till then, hang loose.